So we're here. Welcome to the House of Greatness, Benjamin. We got Benjamin Kane in the house, Brian Icolini.
Welcome, brother.
Joseph Rojas. It's a day we've been looking forward to for a long time, actually.
Yep.
We've been, probably since day one,
Yeah.
we've been excited to have you here. So we're very excited to have you.
Thank you, man.
We're excited to get to know you a little bit more and welcoming you into our house for the first time, first of many times. So,
Dude, I love this place so much. I was feeling like I'm super jealous. Like the idea of the one-stop shop. Like anyone who creates knows that this is like, Mecca, right?
And it's actually a very cool. It's cool like that. As an artist, you're an artist yourself, so you understand the craft, and to be able to have one home, one place where these ideas come to fruition. And I think even most recently, one of the things we've been talking about House of Greatness and what it really kind of stands for, the tagline that we've been running with, that we've been starting with, is where dreams take flight.
Hell yeah.
So it's a home where people come to us with ideas, and the ideas from here take flight. They build and they create. It's a space where creatively we get together and we're able to come up with new ideas and think about the future, the vision of what it is, what we want in our lives and things like that. So it's our home. You're an artist in it.
It's definitely something we've wanted to do for a couple of years. We've talked about it for years, Joseph and I. Always been on the brand side. We've created our own brands. Joseph's been my creative director and visionary pretty much since the start of ProSups. Crazy story, we were probably about 3 or 4 months into ProSups. Instagram had just literally come out at that time. It didn't exist. Think about that. When we started ProSups, Instagram did not exist, right? It had just come out, and we were kind of one of the first brands to really get active on it. Right. And I told my sales team, and I was not a social media guy back in the day. And, I had Jason Arndt in Jersey. We had Ron in North Carolina. We had a guy in Texas. And I said, all right, guys, go visit your mom and pop retail stores that are supporting us. Go by the end cap or wherever they put our ProSup section. Take a picture with the owner and just say thank you and post it on this Instagram thing, right? And then obviously I think the hashtags get created. So then what we started to do is we actually created graphics that we posted. And we, crazy story, we had a girl named Hardcore Ainsley. If you guys know Ainsley today on Instagram, she's a really popular influencer out there. Back at that time, she had like 20-something thousand followers when it first came out, which was a lot, right? When it first came out. And she worked out at LA Fitness down in Brickell, and Eddie knew her. And he goes, I know this girl with this big following. I was like, bring her in. So we actually hired her 3 days a week to kind of manage our Instagram. And she every day in the morning, she would create a post, an email that goes to all of our athletes, affiliates, or employees, and it had a graphic with the hashtags and the caption, and we literally copy and paste it, right? The crazy thing is there was no algorithm back then, right? So if you followed everybody at ProSups, you saw this same image, your entire thread, right? Because we were copy and pasting. So then our graphics team couldn't create a graphic every single day of the week. So Eddie's like, I know this guy. He works for the Florida Marlins, and this is where I make a kind of a bad joke, but this is when the Florida Marlins changed from the kind of legacy look that they had, and they went to their new look, which I hated the new look. So I was like, this guy's coming and telling me he's the one that created the Marlins' new look. When they changed to like the orange and the kind of the theme. Like, it's a bad way to start. It's kind of an inside joke, but yeah, he was literally working for the Florida Marlins. He actually was involved in that transition. I'll let him tell that story. But Joseph kind of came in and he literally started doing our graphics from there, and over the years became creative director, did a lot of packaging transformations at ProSups throughout the years. Joseph then went to another brand called Dragon Pharma, created their whole packaging that still exists today, which I still think is probably some of the best labels I've ever seen from a design aspect. And Joseph was by my side at Alpha Prime the last 2 years and kind of creating everything there, the Alpha Prime Bites protein brownies and what he's done there. So it's been a cool journey on the brand side. One thing I've always loved is obviously I'm the sales guy at the end of the day, but you've been on the brand side where you get to be involved in these meetings and kind of packaging, logo, flavor burst, name of the product, right? I mean, you could spend months trying to figure out what to call your damn product, right? Mm-hmm. And all the bad ideas that people come out and throw out there, right? It's fun. Like, it's fun kind of creating that, right? And one thing I've always loved to do, and I've always been that guy in the industry, Ben, you kind of know this, is I love to help people. And, there's a lot of negative stuff in this industry, but there's still a lot of good people in this, and the good people like to help a lot of the good people, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you guys are doing at PricePlow, is you kind of unifying probably those good people, and kind of creating that community, that the ones that are left, right? And there's some new young grasshoppers that are kind of entering the game. But I've always loved to help people, and now we get to basically help, like he said, where flights take, where dreams take flight, right? We're helping people create their own brand. I've made a lot of mistakes over the years. You've made mistakes over the years building our own brand. And if we could prevent people from making those same mistakes and help navigate them on the right way, that's what we're doing.
That's pretty much all that consulting comes down to at the beginning. Is like, these are the mistakes I've already made. How do I protect you from doing that, right? I loved just like being a fly on the wall when you do creative shit, because you can explain things so granularly, like there's a lot of people out here that make a lot of art that don't understand like the human aspect to it and how humans respond to art, which is the whole purpose, right?
Right.
How to get people's attention on the shelf, how to bring it to certain call outs, how to keep them interested in the product. And there's very few artists in this industry. And I love the meatheads. They're my people too. But like running into actual artists is very, very cool, because creating is, creators are a dime a dozen right now. Everyone, it's beautiful. You can make whatever you want with your iPhone. I'm down in Florida for the weekend. I didn't bring a camera with me. I brought my iPhone 14 Pro Max, right, and an external microphone, and I can do anything I want.
You're gonna make some killer content.
It's incredible, dude. It's what a time to be alive. Like Cody travels with me, and like sometimes this is iPhone out more than his camera. I mean, we're in a whole age of creators now.
Right.
You were joking about pro subs being before Instagram. Like, there are people that their entire claim to fame for brands is their Instagram now.
Literally, right.
Like literally, that's 100%. Why they exist.
Yep.
100%.
But to your point about like the good people in the community, for me, something I've said a lot recently is that there are so many incredible brands and incredible products now that, like, at a certain point, choosing who you buy from has a lot to do with the person.
100%.
And so,
as it should. I think as a consumer,
choose who you want to support.
You should choose who you want to support, what values and that you believe in, and why you support that brand. Whether it starts with the owner, the VP, or or the athlete and/or influencer that's involved in the business, right?
And so those touch points with consumers have never been so important, because there are so many now. Right. Like, you met Trung.
Yeah,
in Texas.
I mean, awesome story.
Like,
right. How much better of a story can you get in terms of what that guy's been through, right?
Yeah, and how specific can you get that community to love him now, right?
And I think if that's in general, I think with every brand or any kind of product itself, and they say people buy into people, they don't buy so much into the brands, and the people is what make the brand. So it's always been an emphasis and a focus on that, as far as like, people are interested to connect with you.
Right.
A brand can be a brand, and it could stand for something, it can mean something, but people need someone to connect to that can share the same values, the same feelings that they have. So I think that's kind of like the coolest thing of building a brand. It's always been that connection to it.
I mean, what you guys do was what I love, because you can be a part of so many different brands. I mean, we're multifaceted people, right?
So you've seen this for a while, because you've been doing this for a while, but I've been telling everybody, one of the things I love the most about what we're doing, when we first started this, I had a lot of people, brand owners that you work with, that are our friends, right? And say, Ike, this is the first time that I actually get to work with you and not against you.
Yeah.
Because I've always been on the brand side, and we're friends, but at the end of the day, brands do kind of compete with brands and things of that nature. So it's been kind of cool to kind of take that side of it and be on this side of the fence, where I do get to work with brands that I've been fans of, or owners who maybe I've helped actually start their brand years ago, and they're a bigger brand than I ever was, right? Another aspect that I love about this journey and what we're doing here at House of Greatness.
I absolutely feel that's probably one of my favorite things too. I've been in this industry for so long. Like, he brought me on since I was a kid, and basically I was 22 years old when I came into the industry, and I was exposed to something that the fitness culture, which I already liked and had a passion for. I fell in love with being able to interact. I've never bonded with a group of individuals as much as what we did in Pro Subs. To this day now, I just wrote him a message a couple of days ago. I'm like,
we're still a tight family.
We're still such a, like, the same core group that we started with. Office was not too far.
That doesn't happen anymore.
At all.
Pro Subs and Cellucor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was at the GNC show a couple weeks ago, and all these old Cellucor people, they've just gone out into the industry so far, but they all came back together.
Right.
That doesn't happen these days, man. Like, we were kind of, talking about it.
I think brands are built differently today.
People are more dramatic, honestly.
Yeah. That too.
I don't know, dude. I think we keep forgetting. I don't know if you guys ever work with Astroflav in Jersey Shore supplements.
I know Brian.
Brian was on our podcast a couple weeks ago, and he was saying, he's like, we keep forgetting that we're here to help people.
Right.
That's the whole point
That
of this
is
product.
why you make supplements.
Yeah.
It's to better them, help them, lead them on their journey, make better conscious food decisions, weight loss decisions, and health decisions. Right. It's a supplement to that.
And I guess that's the cool portion about the supplement industry, where kind of like the initiation or the initial idea of it is to become that or to do that, and then being able to work behind the scenes within the supplement industry. And when you're specifically tied down to one specific brand, I got to see kind of like the shady and the dark side of the industry. Well, it's the same guys that for years, so many years, from Olympia Expos to Arnold's or whatever, you're shaking hands with a lot of these people, you're having dinner with a lot of these people, going out and partying with these people, having a great time. And then because you're part of separate companies, there still happens to be this little shadiness that goes on behind the scenes. Me as an artist, I've always been in the back seat of everything, and I liked staying that way. But again, going back to the fact that once you're part of a brand, it's almost like you're repping this gang, this culture, this thing that it's like, okay, it's Pro Subs, it's red and black, and it's nothing else, and nothing else,
Yeah.
And then I jumped over to Dragon Pharma. I was able to be a part of that whole thing, and it's like, okay, we're Dragon Pharma, I'm Dragon Pharma now, nothing else. And then I jumped over at the last company, and it's like, okay, it's only that. So this is the first time ever that, and I feel too as an artist, like once you build the brand, once you build a look or a feel, like you're pretty much stuck and married to that for some time until eventually you decide to do another package exchange. And as a creative, I'm constantly hungry to develop the next best thing.
Yeah.
Whatever I created last, I'm trying to beat it within the next design. And sometimes I'll take a look back at even projects, even as of recently, that I've done a couple weeks back, and I open the file back up again. It's like, no, I got to switch this because I can do it better. And I completely blow it out the water the last time. So it's been a really cool opportunity now because my creativity is on full blast, because this project, I'm trying to make it look different than this one, this project different than the next. And it's like, how creative can I get? And there's only so many different things that, in a packaging perspective, that you can actually do and change. Like, things are pretty much standard, your name, your logo, your icons, your call outs and stuff like that. And that's also too the challenging part about it, being able to come up with something different for each one where they don't start to look the same. But the ability to be able to work with a lot of these brands, especially brands that have worked in the past. So coming out of this and starting this whole business is like, we're working with Dragon Pharma again, we're working with Pro Subs again, and it's being able to build with those brands that you once had a piece on. We had phone calls with some of the people that are still there, that stayed in the brands, and it was just this very cool, like, wow, like I can't believe we're back together and working in a way. It's really special for this part of the industry. And I think you've gotten to get a taste of that because you get to do this with every brand. Yeah. You get to work and collaborate with them and
or brands you choose to work with. You don't work with everybody.
I don't work with everyone. I choose to work with the good guys. We turn down a decent amount of content if it just doesn't make sense for the partnership. People think that I just get paid to give good reviews, which if I show people the amount of people I've had pissed off because
I've seen some of the not so good reviews. So
yeah, I mean, dude, you use magnesium oxide. I'm going to call you out that that's not good. But
there's the one brand you always bring up though. I can't remember, but there's one that you always bring up. It gets me every time.
There's a couple at this point, honestly. I
think it's like an MLM brand or something.
Yeah. I had a CEO reach out and be like, I'm starting to think you are specifically calling us out frequently. And I was like, you could probably take it that way.
Yeah.
But like, I encourage people to do the right thing, right? That's the whole point. Like, we were in DC this week, talk with Congress to talk about, better enforcement of our laws to make safer products for our consumers.
Well, I think that's a huge point to touch on, obviously, because obviously the PricePlow platform's evolved in time. You do get to choose who you work with. You do work with brands and brand owners that you get along with and you do like. Maybe there's some brand owners that you might not get along with, but you do like the brand and or the products, right?
I try to be secular about it.
There's different aspects to it. But I think ultimately what the PricePlow platform really stands for is education and helping to better this industry and educate consumers that don't know. All of us have been, you've seen some crazy shit go on in this industry. Another example, this is 14 years ago. I'm in some part of Texas. It's probably where they filmed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Some little town, right? And I walk into a store. It's owned by a IFBB pro bodybuilder. I forget the guy's name. And, you know, I'm kind of looking around the store. You walk into the store, you want to check out, see which brand pops more. And I'm like, how's Mr. Hyde selling for you? He's like, it's okay. And I was like, well, what's your best-selling pre-workout? He says, you see that over there? And I look, and I see a wall of black PET unlabeled 20-ounce bottles. Just so you guys know, just imagine a pre-workout bottle, black with no label on it. And I'm talking 500 bottles, right? I said, that? He says, yeah. I said, what's it called? He goes, it doesn't have a name. I said, what's in it? We don't tell people. And he goes, you sell this to people? And he goes, we can't keep it in stock.
That's called illegal.
So, you know, and that's an extreme case, right?
Yeah.
A, who would even buy that?
But not rare.
You know, it's not rare. And so there needs to be more policing. I mean, taking to Congress. I mean, that's a whole nother ballgame, right? But unfortunately, you could go to a lot of mom and pop supplement stores in your city where you live, right? You could walk in and buy something on that shelf. A, it could have illegal substances in it, right? Yeah. That could kill you, technically. Or secondly, it could have a label, and half the stuff that's on that label might not even be in that bottle.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. And that's where the policing and what you're doing on your platform, I think, is huge.
Yeah. We're trying to be, I kind of make the joke, I'm trying to be the adult in the room. You know, like we're not selling like paint for your walls. It goes in people's bodies.
Right.
It changes the way their body works. Right. You know, like you talk about, like everyone likes, you know, cracked out pre-workouts. I mean, we all love 400 megs of caffeine in Mr. Hyde. It was great, you know, but we've got kids taking SARMs, you know,
Right.
and like, look, I'm all for people doing like whatever they want in an informed choice. But
If they have the proper education and knowledge of what they're consuming and what's on the label, and they're aware of the consequences, but they're aware of what they're taking.
Yeah.
Imagine if the food industry was that way. Imagine you go to Publix or your local supermarket and you're buying, you know, 80-20 ground meat, and you test it and it's turkey. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bad example, right? But, you know, same thing. That's kind of
Exactly.
where we are, right? I mean, you'd probably lose it. What if you were allergic to turkey?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. And it happens all the time.
And it's disheartening.
And it's a combination of brand owners, manufacturers. I mean, it's everybody, right?
I think
mean,
it's
there's
the
a lot
manufacturers, to be honest with you.
They're the ones that could probably really regulate this if they would tell people no.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I don't want to say that brick and mortar is to blame, but they've enabled it. They've allowed it, right? Because we all kind of like laugh about it.
Someone has to make it.
Yeah, someone's going to make it. You know,
I mean, back in the day, you had people making stuff in bathtubs. We know those guys. You know,
they own some contract manufacturers now. It's funny. They talk about
right.
talk about being NSF, and I'm like, what? You were selling DMA out of a bathtub 10 years ago.
I think you could get a bathtub, you know, NSF certified.
You pay someone.
Depends how you clean, how you clean it. I guess I don't know. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, I love that part of what PricePlow is doing. I've always been on the upper side of everything from formulation, FDA claims, everything we've done, even the contract manufacturers, you know. I mean, I've gotten some heat as of recently. There's certain contract manufacturers that we work with here at House of Greatness, and it's because they do things the right way. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of contract manufacturers that would love to work with us, and I'm not saying we'll never work with them, but it also goes back to me where I know the owner of the manufacturer. I've been to the facility before, and I'm about relationships as well, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important. But unfortunately, there's a lot of non-GMP, non-NSF, non-certified manufacturers out there that will make anybody anything. And as long as that exists, I don't know how you nip it in the butt. Unless, like you said, maybe Congress, or maybe there's harsher penalties, or the FDA has to get involved. But then do they have the manpower?
Well, so that was what we were talking to Congress about, was nudging the FDA to just enforce what's already there. And I think it does come down to contract manufacturers, unfortunately, because a lot of those guys are my buddies. But, you know, if you're running DMHA on the weekends, you're going to get caught.
Eventually, yeah.
So that's a really cool thing that we do. But, I mean, I just think overall we try to influence the industry to be better. You know, we've been really lucky to work with some really incredible brands, some really awesome. A lot of clients of your guys have trusted us to make content for them, which is amazing. Recently, we've been trying to level up, right? Is because there's no one that does what we do in the industry, and I don't say that in a cocky way. It just like factually on paper, there's no like thought leader, creator who influences the industry like we do. And so we've been really lucky to, like, you know, I podcasted with the COO of GNC a couple weeks ago. It's
Nobody's doing that.
Getting Nate on record is hard. They're, you know,
nobody even knows.
Huge company.
Right.
Vitamin Shop, we're doing some cool stuff with soon. I mean,
New CEO over there.
Yeah, Lee's really nice guy. We had a call last week. I mean, I want to, like we said, the adult in the room. We want to be the guy that brings everyone together, right? Because someone has to be talking in front of everyone, right? Like at the end of the day, someone's got to make the content. So
how did this whole process start, Ben? Like, how did you get involved into this industry? How did you get involved into? How did you guys build?
So I actually hated the supplement industry in college. Like I thought, like for all the reasons that we're talking about right now, all the bullshit. I was going.
What years was that?
I'm not gonna tell you guys. I'm not gonna tell you guys how old I am. The beard helps me a lot. But I was working at Vitamin Shop. I was going to Rutgers for dietetics. I was gonna work in a hospital. I was gonna be like a nutrition person, which was never gonna work out because the smell of hospitals freaks me out. But Mark Glazier walked into my store, owner of NutriBio, and he asked me a question. He asked me what the worst product in the store was. And I knew the answer, and I explained it to him. And I'm not going to say what it was because I actually like the guy now. But at that time,
does that product still exist?
No.
Okay.
No. But at that time, to understand ingredient panels was not common, right? You go on TikTok now, everyone knows 6 grams of citrulline. Yeah. But I was able to call out like certain key things about this panel that just showed there was some shady shit going on.
And that was prop blend days too, right? Pretty much everything back in those times prop blended.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so like to be able to call out in that prop blend what the problem was,
it's even harder.
Yeah, because quite frankly, PricePlow really is who kind of put a lot of the education out on that to explain that.
Blends, yep.
Yeah, and so I explained to him. He gave me a card like right on the spot. That was one of them. Yeah. He gave me a card right on the spot. He was like, "Hey, do you need a job? Like, I need someone who has that skill set." At the time, like, no one that you guys know from NutriBio was there. This was like very early. This is
because they've been around since
'96.
Yeah.
And so I was able to come in like right before what I consider to be like the golden days of NutriBio, where they launched BBCom, Vitamin Shop, GNC, grew out the wholesale, really created some really like modern marketing campaigns for them. And they built out a sales team. None of this is I'm not taking any credit for any of this, but I was able to be one of the guys at the time. Yep. I was traveling with Mark every single month. I was traveling more back then than I am now, which is crazy. I was gone like 3 weeks a month. But you guys know when you launch like a brand like GNC Vitamin Shop, you got to be in
all
store,
the stores,
all the
demo,
RSD meetings, all the manager meetings. So you got to go to Pittsburgh. You got to kiss the ring and do all the stuff.
Right.
And it was a manufacturing facility as well. They manufacture all their own stuff in house. Wow. So I got to work in sales. I got to work in marketing. I got to work in R&D. We got to do all of it. And, I mean, I could not have asked.
Great experience.
Yeah, could not ask for a better experience to get into this industry. I owe so much of what I have to Mark Glazier for sure. And from there, I moved around the industry a little bit after there, but one of the key things was when I was at NutriBio, I was the contact for Mike Roberto at PricePlow. And he had a couple social guys back in the day that, they did their job. It was YouTube days. But when I left NutriBio, I took another job. And I remember Mike called me because the new job was so excited to tell them that they had gotten Ben from NutriBio. Because at the time, I traveled so much that I knew everyone at the time. And I remember Mike called me. He was like, "What the fuck, man? You didn't call me?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I need a guy." Wow. And I was like, "I'm sorry, man. I didn't know you would want that." And he was like, "When you're done with this job, how much is it going to cost?" And I gave him a number. And a year later, I left the job, and I called him. He's like, "Good, you're on."
Done.
Wow. And it was like no questions asked. Flew out to Austin, figured it out, and they did an awesome job with YouTube prior to me coming on, but they didn't have almost any social.
I'm shooting off the hip here, like 2015-ish. Am I close?
2017.
Okay. Yeah. Shooting off the hip there.
Yeah, and so, man, like, we just hit the ground running. Business-wise, I'm very transparent about our business. It used to be a controversial thing that we get paid for content, but Mike was doing everything a la carte. You want a video, you want a blog, you want an email newsletter, whatever. I was like, "Dude, Cage launched a new flavor last month and you didn't cover it. What happened?" He was like, "They didn't call me." I was like, "Everyone's on a retainer. So every single month, you guys get it. Yeah. Every single month, there's nothing forgotten." We actually have a operations manager now that keeps on us about this shit. Nice. But every single month, every single client of ours, we have a call, we get them content, we take care of them. And, we now have evolved to the point where we're an extension of these brands' marketing departments.
Right. Sure.
Right? I'll give them comment on the launch, how it should be doing, like how we can do this better, what they could do better, what we can do together collaboratively. I mean, It varies, right? A small brand that needs help, I'll give a lot of direction to. You know, Raw basically just ships me the product and I make the content, right? Different levels of this. You know, Ghost just sends me like, hey, next week you're gonna have this Oreo freaking collab. By the way, you know, like it's like just a nonchalant drop this. So yeah, it's different levels with different people, but we work as extensions of marketing, and we do label review. We do a lot of consulting on formulations. You know, I wouldn't say we broker, but you know, we connect people a lot just because of our networks, and it's been such a growing process. And there was a point where I'm sure you guys had this moment where you're like, you know, it's like imposter syndrome. You've been, you know, you have something, you know, you're passionate about something, but deciding like you're that guy, it's a conscious decision, right?
For sure.
I had it in 2 points. There was a point where someone that was working for us who did a little bit of social with us posted asking, hey, can anyone make I think it was a marshmallow protein. And I remember thinking to myself, PricePlow doesn't ask for things. PricePlow calls people and says, hey, it'd be a good idea if you made this. Because we can, right? We have friends. And then there was another moment where I used to wear everyone else's brands. Like I was so stoked to have like a Ghost shirt, the Revive jersey, like all, and I still love all of my friends and my partners. I'll still rep all their stuff. But there was a point where I realized that our brand was cool, and you have to rep it.
Good point,
right? I'm sure you guys get it because you work with such cool brands. You're like, you've got like a ton of Raw downstairs, like that's awesome and everything. But like, you have your own brand, and you have to rep that,
right?
You know?
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, you nailed that. What would you say has been one of the most challenging portions of the business?
Just legitimizing it to what I believe it could be. Which it's not. I don't want to say it's not difficult.
It's just not fully in your control.
You can't control other people, right? I got lowballed my first couple months, and I had to make ends meet, right? You know, I mean, I was living in my parents' basement at the time, but like, you know, I think I have a vision of what I can be, and people didn't believe me, you know. And then it's, you know, I love posting like, dude, I got fired from GNC in college. I'm fucking podcasting with the CEO or COO, right? Like, you know, like I posted, it's my personal Facebook, so it's not like unprofessional, but like I like called out the manager that fired me, like you know, like I know you guys know this, like you know what your potential is, and people don't want to see that because of insecurity that they can't be that as well.
For sure.
I think like the thing that made it for me was abundance mindset. Like, we all consult in the same space, but like, there's no reason that we both can't, you know,
collaborate and work together,
do our own thing. Yeah,
that's exactly how I feel. Like you've nailed, and it's crazy because sometimes like I'm a firm believer that conversations are meant to have at the same exact, like conversations happen, they occur, and things come as they're meant to, and their messages, their confirmations of things. I mean, some of the things that you're touching on right now is things we've been talking about this whole week, and these are things that are not planned. It just happens to be that, and those what gives us confirmation towards that.
It's hard to be third party and be resolute in what you are and what you can be, right? Because you're not selling a product anymore.
Right, we're not selling a product, services.
That's the thing I miss the most, is having a thing.
It's tangible.
It's tangible. It's a passion. It's like, you know, you have technology, you have ingredients, you have flavors, whatever it is, the thing you can hold and you
feel
can pitch.
It, touch it, You can see it transact, technically.
Yeah, you know, especially like everything that I make is digital. You know, like that's hard, right? But, you know, I think the proof is in the pudding at a certain point, right? Exactly. Like it either is working or it is not.
I mean, we're getting to the point now where, you know, one of the things when we started this journey was some of my international contacts, my distributors that I've been working with for 10 plus years, they've always supported me and my brands that I've created. They've gotten to the point where they've realized that they need their own brand. They need some stability and some, I don't want to say a backup plan, but they're the ones in these countries that are importing these American brands. They hire their own staff to market it, their own staff to sell it. They're dealing with the stores and gyms in their country, putting these other people's brands on the shelves. And unfortunately, they've been burned, you know, by a lot of brands over the years. And there's sometimes where brands you just got to have because it's hot, right? It is what it is. But I started pitching them and saying, let me help create you your own brand. And a lot of them was like, Ike, we've wanted to do that for 10 years. we don't know any good manufacturers. We don't know anybody that can formulate. We don't know anybody can make the label. And that's where we started kind of talking and said, well, let me handle that process for you. So we're getting to the point now where some of these brands are actually getting to the point where we got one being produced tomorrow, actually. Tomorrow we're filming it. A couple next week where that tangible part is going to exist.
Yeah.
Where from literally our first phone call probably 4 months ago, where the customer didn't even know what to name his brand.
Yeah.
You know, where Joseph has then created a name, a logo, eight labels, right? We've formulated it. We've tried the flavors. We've approved it. It's actually being produced.
Yeah.
And now we're going to ship them their own product. And now we get to be a part of watching that brand grow.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's so I have a couple different angles where I shoot content. I've got shelves. I like to show off the cool stuff I got.
Right.
And there's a shelf somewhere in my office that is a shelf of just secret products that I made that I can't tell people. You'd never know.
Yeah.
Right, because we all got our NDAs. I think
Right.
I probably have the most in this industry.
Probably.
But I keep a lot of secrets. But yeah, I totally like having that thing. Like I went through 75 revisions on that formula because it wasn't right.
17 fruit punches. You know?
Yeah. You couldn't get the coconut right.
Right.
You know, so I totally understand, and I think that this is the cool spot to be because, like, you know, you have your motif, right? You've got your feel for House of Greatness, whatever you create. But like, you know. There's all sorts of wild brands out there that you can express yourself through.
Right.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
Especially now, more than ever.
yeah,
More than ever.
You know, like I'm by trade a strength athlete. You know, and I care about certain things. But like when I get to work with, I was telling like before this, like I got to work with the Legacy brand, and I got told this is how much money it has to cost. It has to be underneath this.
Right.
I'd never gotten to do that before. At NutriBio, we had like very we were allowed to go expensive with formulas. You know. And, with Unbound. When we
Right,
did
no
that
ceiling
was even
technically,
crazy.
right.
Especially because they manufactured themselves.
Right.
Being told, like...
It's like, how do you do that? How
Yeah.
do you make a good product but still hit this cost of goods, right?
Yeah. Well, I had an appreciation for what you did at ProSubs immediately.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what do you mean I can't put 12 grams of citrulline in this thing, right? Like...
You know, it's
But
crazy.
I
Like,
mean-
you know, I've never been one of those guys that, you know, kind of goes out there clouding formulations and stuff. But, I mean, I've been formulating products since ProSups. And you actually mentioned something I never really thought about, but being able to work at NutriBio in the early days when they manufactured, well, I started in 2006 at VPX Sports. And VPX actually manufactured a lot of their own products. So I didn't really think about it until you mentioned it. But I was part of being in a facility where we made our own protein bars. We made a lot of our own. We blended the powders, but it was bottled somewhere else. And I
gives you so
was
much.
a guy that grew up on journals and ISNs type stuff because you didn't have Instagram. You had to really know your shit back then to make products, right? And you know, whether you guys know Jack Owalk or not, he knew his shit from a formulation perspective, right? So when I kind of came in there, I was kind of one of those guys that came in with a lot of formulation knowledge, and I looked at his stuff, and we would go back and forth. But having the raws and a lot of that stuff in the building kind of expedites that journey, right? So when we started ProSups, my goal was to make products that the industry had never seen before. And you guys touched on another. The reason I remember we made this Vanish fat burner, right? I was allowed to use PEAs back then, a couple different sources of Yohimbis and some things like that. And we made a diet plan. I don't know if you remember, it came in a box with a diet plan, right? And I remember we used to get people that would email us and say, ever since I've been taking, I was 400 pounds, I'm down to 280 pounds, my blood pressure is lower, you know, this, that. Like the feeling you get from those type of emails was like, that's why we started this business.
Yeah.
That's why we make this, is to help people live longer, be around for their kids, lose weight, gain muscle, whatever it is, right? I remember I made a product called iFocus, and this isn't about, you know, me just throwing products out there, but we actually paid the ISS, or actually it was Dr. Antonio and a couple other people in the organization. We did a reaction study. It was a tap test. So you would take this iFocus product, and people want to talk about ingredients. I was using ashwagandha, lion's mane, all this stuff that everybody's talking about now was back in this product in 2013, right? We did a tap test where they would show you a card and you would tap, and it basically improved reaction time. I think it was like 27%. The group that was taking the iFocus product, right? Unfortunately, the product failed. It was like way too early in its time.
It was ahead
you
of
know?
it. It's a nootropic.
But
before,
you know,
Yeah.
I was
Nootropic
using Tutka Sodium and Guardian in 2014. You know, like way ahead of the time. And again, prop blends. You had to really know your stuff back then.
Yep.
I think Amino Links was one of the first products with a full spectrum essential amino acid blend. You know, in it.
Very few back then. Yeah, that was a
Hickas, leucine derivative products. I mean, just all kinds of stuff, right? So I've always been that science geek on the back end of things, right? In terms of how these, and I think that's what makes today a lot more difficult. Everybody's working. I say we're all working with pretty much the same ingredients, the same bottles, the same manufacturers with different labels, right? So it is going to turn down to marketing, influencers, and that's where I think going into believing to the owners or the influencers of what their beliefs are is kind of what it's about today, right? Because everybody's kind of selling the same thing. There's no one's going to find, I think USP Labs was the last company to find an ingredient in India that no one ever heard of, right? That has some crazy feedback in terms of some clinicals and results, right?
Yeah, I think so obviously NutriBio was like the first company to pull prop blends in 1990 or 2001, right?
Okay,
and that's
I didn't know that. Yeah,
that's their claim to fame, right? And the problem ends up being that now everyone's non-proprietary, right? Being transparent is not a unique selling proposition anymore.
Right.
To me, like I've always been a community builder. Like that was what I've thrived. I built out the bio crew at NutriBio. Like one thing that I will take credit for. And if to me, like community is how you solve that problem. Because every product's the same.
Right.
On the industry right now. Right. Like you
might have 1 more gram of citrulline or 500 mgs more betaine.
Like I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, the goal is to improve someone's workout. And pretty much you go to Walmart and you can buy something that'll improve your workout. Like,
I mean, it could be a caffeine pill. Technically, could
improve
your
workout. Right. And so, like, believe me, I'm the ingredient guy. I love ingredients. I don't get me wrong. But if we can get on the same page of that for a second, what really matters? It's taking people and making them feel like they belong. Yeah. Right. Like they feel like there's some part of something. Right. Because that's most people want to feel like they're buying this consumer packaged good. And it makes them feel good, makes them feel part of something. What the cool thing is that I was able to take that outside of consumers. Right. Now there's a community of industry. Right. And that's been my goal at this point.
We've done a hell of a job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. You, Mike, the team over there. Cody is pumping some really cool stuff, man. Yeah. Dude, seeing where he's come from. We talked about it earlier on a call earlier today, right?
Blast, dude. It's ridiculous that I sometimes like we see like a formula and we're like, man, like I really like that. We should reach out. We email them. We're like, hey, where'd you come up with this idea? And they're like, I was reading your blog. And Mike and I are like, holy shit, dude, people are listening to us? Like, wait, you actually listen to the things we say? It's crazy to me. Like, my parents told me when I was a kid, they thought I was going to be a lawyer because I like to argue and have an opinion. Like, no, I just, talk about my feelings on nutrition on the internet, but.
Same thing.
But I think the beautiful thing of this whole thing is that, like, and I think you both just mentioned it, is the beauty of everything that you have done in the past and all the trials and tribulations that you've gone through has led you to this moment now and become who you are. Each one of you is on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. You're able to basically have compiled up, and I'm very much a firm believer in that. And like, I feel like your worth and your value is equipped through all these experiences that you go 100%. Through, and you get to put them in your bag, and that's what almost like you level up. And then right now, this moment of time, I think for each one of us in our careers is that moment where we had to go through everything that we did to be able to give us the knowledge that we have now, to be able to come forward and be able to help others in a way to make sure you step on this side and don't fall and don't trip.
One of the things that I found is exactly that, but also a little bit of a twist, is that it was really important to figure out who I am and what I want, but it was equally as important, if not more, to find out who I'm not. There's been a lot of times where I've had to decide, who am I? Who am I not?
For sure. Almost look at yourself in the mirror, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. A bunch of times in my career.
Is it because you caught yourself? I want to say going. Okay, so you recognized it before.
I caught a few times in my professional career. I can't give away too much, but you realize like you're looking at a decision that maybe your boss is asking you to do, or that you have an opportunity to do something in this industry, and you realize like, that's a different road that I'm not traveling. We've had a bunch of brands try to commit to paying us per sale instead of for the content. And for me, like, I'm an educator, I'm a thought leader, I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a sales rep. Right. I suck at sales, to be honest with you. I will always build relationships. That's how I work my sales jobs. But I turned down we've had some lucrative offers, like ridiculous offers for conversions. And the data's out there. You could ask any of your partner brands that work with us, like we convert, like it's what happens
Right.
when you have a site that does 200,000 unique visitors a month, right? We convert these people over and we help them find quality nutrition that they're looking for,
Right.
get them a good price at a good spot where they can go purchase that.
Right.
But I have never been and will never be someone that gets paid per click. I'm not interested in that because at that point I'm then incentivized to sell. And there's reviewers out there that do that. I'm not a reviewer. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an educator, I'm a marketer, I'm a lot of things, but turning that down, that like last year we turned down a big one, and it was funny because at the end of the year they came back, they're like, if we had done this is how much money you would have made, and it was like a lot more than we did, you know. But it was solidified for me, like, I don't.
Once you stay true to yourself, there's no going back.
Yeah.
And once you know who you are, there's nothing else outside that can change that or can deviate you from the route and the path that you're headed in.
I want to make things better for everyone. That's my goal. You know, I was joking at the beginning that I was going into school for dietetics because I hated this industry. I should say this. I dropped out of college to work at NutriBio because I thought that I could change things from the inside. I could work at a quality company that was non-proprietary. They were manufacturing themselves, doing those quality things. And I think that I had a piece in helping make things more transparent because after NutriBio, Jim, Cage, how many transparent
the whole
companies?
Industry pretty much now.
If
It's
you
kind of
find-
the standard now.
Yeah, if I post something with a proprietary blend, like they get ripped now,
Yeah.
right, in the comment sections. And then I took it a step further, leveling up is what we've talked a lot about, right? And I've realized like I can do it even better if I'm on my own, right? Because I'm not held to that one team,
Right.
And I miss a team, dude, like crazy. But we've got a kind of a cool crew now, you know.
You're building a cool team over there. I'm sure you'll make some key additions as you keep growing.
2019, Mike.
But I mean, Cody, again, we'll go back to Cody. I mean, when did he start? Was it been a year?
It
Maybe
was
about a year?
My trip when we met you guys was the first trip he and I had done together. We found him just for editing because I was editing 2 videos a day.
Wow.
Filming and editing, every single day during 2020. I was like, I was living in a single bedroom apartment, just grinding, eating shit, dude. Like tuna and rice every single meal, just to save money and work as hard as possible. And I've got to the point where I was the bottleneck. I can't edit any more videos, so we hire him, and find out he's a videographer. And you guys wanted me to come down, so I was like, Cody, like, you want to try this out? And it's just been like take off from there. In 2019, Mike wanted to see if I would move to Texas and we would find an office, and we wanted to create a lifestyle brand, like where there's a location, there's a headquarters. Didn't end up working out. I live in Jersey, my family's all there, and I'm big on family.
Yeah,
that's tough for me.
I'm the same.
So yeah, he doesn't want to move to Jersey. I don't want to move to Oklahoma.
Yeah,
But
the cool thing is that the brand that you guys are building. And I think that's part of, even in general, just brands now.
Digital.
Like, it's all digital.
Well, that's what I wanted to say before. Actually, I want to remember, were you talking about teams and people, us versus them? You guys were fighting for shelf space.
Yeah.
Right.
Man,
Literally,
we can
there's
all,
only so much space on that shelf.
Yeah, we can all run our own Shopify's now, though.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, dude, product of the year 2022 was Savage Legend, right? Like for at least for me. I know everyone has their own opinion of what the best product was of the year. You guys made some very cool stuff yourselves.
Right.
But I thought the fact that these 2 brands
Came
launched
together.
one
Oh,
thing.
yeah, that's incredible. I love it. I love everything.
with mega influencers.
Mega
right?
influencers, and everyone
Personalities.
loved it, dude.
Right.
Everyone.
The industry loved
you know
it.
what it is, and that's one of the things when I first got to meet Dom and he gave me the opportunity to work with him and to work with the brand, was the idea that he was okay with us continuing to do our own thing, and this is the first time in the industry and that I had met a brand owner who didn't care about you working with another brand. And to me, that's the way that I move. I align with that same exact mentality because I'm so confident in myself of what the product that I do and I output. I know there's 100 million other designers out there, and I know there's other people that can do labels, but nobody can do what I do, and I know that. And even if there is other people doing what I do, there's plenty of work enough for everybody to go around to eat.
I love that.
And
That's important.
Raw really got to show me that, and he got to. I get to
And
see how much
we've had some partners, won't name names,
Yeah.
but that were always criticizing other brands. We're always,
yeah.
talking about other brands and this and that.
They couldn't stand us being friends with other people.
It's such a hard spot to be in because look, man, I think I make the best content in the industry.
Right.
One of my best buds is Ryan Buckeye at Fitness Informant. Like, I can say to his face, man, I think I make the best stuff, but I respect everyone else. Right. And
100%.
It's so tough to, like, because you have friends at other brands, and
Right.
it's so hard to be in the room with those kinds of people that all they want to do is trash.
But there's a
other
big
people.
difference in respect and criticizing.
For
Right?
sure. For sure.
And I think, to Dom's point, Dom knows what they're good at and what they're doing in that brand right now, and they're crushing it. He doesn't see anybody else, right?
My first call with Dom, I think he's probably heard me tell the story like 6 times. He's probably tired of hearing me say it. But first call, we talk about what PricePlow does, blah, 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 blah. 20-minute call. At the end, stops. All right, cool. This is my first soiree into supplements. What do you think that we can do better? And he, it was the first time he's ever met me. Wants to know, hey, what do you think we can do better?
Soaks up information and learns and grows.
Just wants to learn, wants to always be improving. And I was really impressed by that because I don't know a lot of grown men in this industry that can do that.
And that's what happens. This industry has so ego-based and it's so overpower this and that. And it's like there's enough for everybody. And at the end of the day, it's in order for you to be able to output the quality of the content that you produce, you have to believe you're the very best.
Yeah.
You have to walk in there with that stance and that position. Like, I know this is what I do. And in that way, that shows confidence that you are so sure of who you are that nobody else can tear that down.
I think the message, anybody that's coming out with their own brand, wants to come out with their own brand, it would blow my mind if you don't want to have the best formula you think you can have, made at one of the best certified manufacturers that can make your products, designed by one of the best designers. Like, why would you not want that, right? And there's a lot of brands out there, and that's why there are other companies that do some similar things, and there's plenty for everybody at the end of the day, right? There's certain things that everybody offers, certain brands in terms of what they offer and how they kind of work, I guess, if you will.
I think the worst thing you could do is try to compete with other people, honestly.
100%. Focus on yourself. Focus on your own brand.
One of my very good friends, Dan Lorenzo, owner of Ghost, asks me all the time when we talk about new brands, he's like, what is their reason to win? Why should they win? What is unique about them? And I mean, dude,
it's tough.
How many brands are actually unique today? And I don't want to dog anyone because, like, everyone wants to make their own
I guess you could generalize uniqueness into a lot of subcategories. It's, and to define that at the end of the day,
innovation.
It's tough, right? Because it's hard in innovation. I think we talked about earlier the Legend and Savage collab, like that's innovation technically, right? On its own, from a collaboration of two mega brands collaborating, right? It's not a formula or a flavor or anything like that. So that was different.
It was a whole experience.
Now we're seeing other brands do it. I've seen some other brands kind of do it, which is kind of pretty cool. What's the next form of innovation going to be? I don't know. That's where it's going to get interesting, because it's not going to be really in the ingredient side technically, or
there's
anything
only
like
so
that.
much you can do with ingredients, man.
And that's why I think packaging really is huge.
But on the flip side, with D2C business being so huge,
you don't see it.
It doesn't even matter if it pops off the shelf anymore.
Right.
I mean, you're starting to see a lot of 3D rendering, a lot of that stuff, which is very cool.
Motion stuff, some guys doing some cool motion stuff out there.
Absolutely.
But I still think when that consumer, Joseph says that when they get that bottle and they it's almost like if the label, I want to say cheap, but the label's not great, or the bottle, it's almost like, do they trust what's in the bottle? I don't know.
Are you proud to have that on your kitchen counter? Is a big thing for me. Like, do people want to have that there?
Dan, like I've known Dan since way before the Ghost days, right? A marketing guru, right? I mean, a lot of people know about him. Like, he's been on the marketing side for a long time. But everything he's done from branding perspective, right? I think they've done the best job of, probably out there on what they've done with Ghost.
But they did it the right way.
That's the
thing. People don't realize they paid Super Top Secret to do, like, the whole brand, right? Like, people just make a label and run with it now.
Right. They find who can make, who can make me the label the fastest, the cheapest, whip it on a bottle, and throw it out there.
I ask brands for a brand book, and if they don't have one, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, we all need to sit down. What are your colors? Like, that's something people need to understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the
It's
end
a
of the day,
roadmap to them knowing where they're going and where they're headed.
Yeah.
And hey, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? And again, that's where you come into like a house of greatness. Okay, no problem. Let us guide you there.
Right.
So
But that's the scary thing. And that's what we talk about a lot is like
that's the scary part.
people are like, well, I don't know these things. I'm like, well, then
Should you?
why should you own a brand if you don't know what's legal to do with that brand? Right? Should you own a brand if you don't know what the ingredients are in the things you're selling? At the end of the day, it's like you have Dom's a great example of this. He's a business guy.
Right.
Does Dom know every single gram of ingredient in every product of his? I wouldn't expect him to, because he knows
His team does.
that's the point, right? You have to have the right people in the right places,
Right.
and too many brands don't even have the right people in the first place. There's also a lot of like wolves in terms of consultants out there that will take
Yeah.
advantage of brands, and that's one thing I feel bad about.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I've never seen that world technically because I've kind of always done my own thing. But
I've always
in this
heard-
short stint, I've kind of seen a little bit of heard from. We get some customers that come into like this company or this guy did
Yeah.
this right, and like I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, I
to be
paid
honest
them
with you,
$40,000 and got
crazy.
nothing.
Yeah,
out of
like
it, right?
it's crazy that it
yeah,
even exists.
I hear that way too often. Feel horrible.
But again, I think that's where everybody can come together. The Price Plows, fitness informants, House of Greatnesses, and educate community. It's all we can do at the end of the day.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think to your point, the label is super cool when you pull it out of the box. But the most important thing for me, or not the most important, but the most impactful thing is when I get a written little note, like,
little
"Hey, thanks
handwritten
for your purchase."
thank you.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what I was gonna say.
it's genuine, it's authentic. Yeah. But I could also make the argument that I feel like so many brands are doing that now.
Possibly, totally possibly.
Which maybe that's kind of become the standard. So what's the next step further? Maybe it's a video message DM'd or something through TikTok, right?
I'll tell you what. I just bought a VR headset last week because I think that's the next thing.
It definitely is, man. We've got some things in the future, kind of down that path. But again, we want to thank you for taking the time to come down here. I know
Thank
you
you
got
guys
a
for
busy
having
week.
me.
You literally just flew in. I'm grateful for the friendship. I'm grateful for the partnership.
guys.
You've always supported my brands, so I want you to know that.
Yes.
If you guys don't know PricePlow, check them out. Instagram, TikTok, online.
Thank you guys.
Doing some really great content, and I want to see that evolve as well.
Continue evolving.
Thank
You are such a important and unique piece of this industry.
Thank you.
That I love how you have niched in on that and have built that and continue to improve to grow that space on its own.
I mean, just seeing you at the Capitol. Last week, right?
That's
Like,
huge.
I almost had to look
Crazy.
twice. Like, is that?
Yeah.
It's Ben wearing a suit, right? That was the first. Like, wait, hold on, right?
Yeah.
But like, I mean, dude, how cool is that?
It's wild.
I mean, Congress talking
Just
about
wild.
FDA and supplements.
Getting to talk to people about like our passion, because I'm representing you guys,
Right.
right? These guys may never meet anyone from our industry,
Probably never will.
right? I mean, I have to say the NPA has been doing this for years, but they bring people like Now Foods, right? Which billions,
Big
right?
company,
Obviously,
but-
great, 8,000 SKUs, literally. But someone who speaks for us, I
Right.
felt like I had a very unique position. Mike and I had a unique position. So
Well, congrats on that,
thank
man.
you guys.
Super
Thank
cool
you guys.
to
It
see
means a
that,
lot
so,
to have you guys
yeah.
support, but I love what you guys are doing. So thank you guys so
Great.
much.
We look forward to having you again.
Cool.
Please.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Woo.
Party girl.